What's happening? Happy New Year. We are here for 2025. We are excited about what's happening this year. We're excited about closing out 2024, ending on a great note and starting on a great note. This is your girl, Dr. Terrell Ravenel. I have my co-host here, and we are on for another episode of Relationship Topia. All things relationship with self, relationship with God, your creator, and relationship with others. As I always say, tune in, get your paper. Well, Jill says that get your paper, get your pen. While things may not directly impact you or relate to you, I guarantee that there's someone that you know, someone close to you, or indirectly that you know that can benefit from this information and you can share it with them. So we left last year, which was a few days ago, and we started talking about when a woman loves a man. We had opportunity to go over 2 points on last week, and we have three more that we want to share with you before we go to our next episode within this short series of when a woman loves a man. So we're going to get started with Jill. Going to open up with number three. We're going to get rolling today. Oh, I can't hear you, Jill. Can't hear you. Looks like you're muted.
Okay, I was trying to use my mic, but I think it keeps muting me. So we just gonna hopefully the sound quality is good. Let me know, and if not, I'll do a different setup next time. Okay, you guys. So the first thing is just real quick respect. Last time we talked about RESPECT. Tell me what it means to me. So we talked about the importance of a woman respecting a man and kind of what that looks like. We also talked about prioritizing his needs. Now for number three, this is a big one. When a woman is really digging a man, and not only digging you, because a woman could really be digging you, or you could be really digging a guy, but you lack these skills to demonstrate your interest and to validate, for lack of a better word, to show up in a way that you're going to be valued and appreciated. So this is why we're sharing it. So the third thing we're going to tell you is that as a woman, but the woman that's listening, you want to get to a place where his heart safely trusts you. And I'm going on a tangent. Let me go for a second because I just be thinking. I think in frameworks a lot of times. And when I was thinking in a framework just yesterday, the framework that came to my mind was like there's different steps. And I didn't write them down. I was just thinking about them. I'm like the first step is like you have to gain that respect of a man. So a man has to respect you. You have to respect him. Have that mutuality there. And then I feel like I'm getting a step. Then I can't remember the second thing I was thinking in my head at the time. But then once you get to the respect, adoration. So once he respects you and you respect him, you have adoration for him. He has adoration for you. Then the third pillar, the third step that you need to get to is a place of vulnerability. And this is what I'm talking about when I say a man's heart safely trusts you. He trusts that you're a safe space. He trusts that you're not going to judge him based on perhaps what he tell you, whether it could be something traumatic that he experienced, some emotions he may be feeling. And if you want to even go further than that, not only do you want to be a safe space where it's a non-judgment zone, you also want to speak life into him after he shares something with you, especially when it's vulnerable. If he tells you about how his dad abandoned him, and when he tells you whatever the case may be, you hear that, you listen actively. Don't listen to, sometimes we're so quick to want to listen to respond, but we get to listen just to hear and for understanding. And then afterwards, we can show our worth and understanding and appreciation for him and help validate him through speaking life into him and encouraging him and empowering him and lifting him up. So this is really, really, really important. And this is where I feel like so many people fall off. There's an undervaluing of conversation. There's an undervaluing of that connection. And the truth be told, relationships are built and die off of this communication. And we just think, it's just talking. But talking is where the heart and the mind is able to meet, when you can get an understanding of what they're thinking, and your thoughts become your actions, and your actions become, your lifestyle. ultimately. And so it's important to know how your partner is thinking, what he's thinking about, vice versa. It's important to know what is their heart, what drives them, what they're passionate about. And so you have to create the space for this exchange. And you should be talking, oh God, a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes a day. If there's a more seasoned relationship and an earlier relationship, closer to like half an hour to an hour a day, learning to connect, learning to just foster that connection and create the space for vulnerability and welcome it, so you can get to a place where his heart safely trusts you. And of course, that's biblical as well. So that's what I would say around that. Anything you want to add before you go to number 4, Trail?
I think I muted my mic. Oh, is I muted? Okay. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I would say, as far as the communication, I don't know if there's a time limit per se, but what I would say about communication, you should be communicating consistently or regularly with your spouse, right? With your partner,
Sure.
the person that you're with. And that just should be you should have constant communication and constant dialogue within the relationship. You should be able to share your whims and your woes and your wins and things of that nature, and always leaning in, always looking for an opportunity to lean in. And that's how the trust gets there too, right? So there could have been things that occurred in that relationship that cause a breach of trust, if you would, that has created some tension and some division within the relationship. So we definitely want to ensure that that is we target that root if that is there and has caused the division or has caused the relationship to drift away. And even if you're not currently in a relationship and you're looking to be in a romantic relationship, you want to look at certain qualities and traits and characteristics that you have now, even in talking with even in other relationships, friendships, partnerships. If you're a leader at your job, your employer, your relationship with your siblings, your relationships with your parents, you want to ensure that you're looking at how you're communicating even in those relationships, because those traits typically carry over into that other relationship. So if you're having a hard time having solid relationships, and your relationships seems to be issues with communication and things of that nature, and your spouse or your partner or someone that you've dated may have said, well, I can't trust you, or I can't share this with you, or something of that nature, you want to definitely start looking inwardly. I always say start looking inwardly, because when you start talking about trust, is in order for someone to not trust, there had to be some violation of trust at some point. So we definitely want to deal with that as well. So that's the only thing I want to add to that, as it pertains to the trust factor. You have something else to say?
No, you're
Oh,
good. Go ahead to number 4.
okay.
Let's keep it
Okay.
rolling.
So number 4 is allowing room for imperfection and people just to be human. And one of my programs, when I was teaching the ready to what was it? Not ready for marriage, ready to
Ready
winning
to
your
win.
marriage, ready
Mhm.
to winning your marriage. I talk about adjustability and flexibility within the relationship, because that is very vital in order for your relationship to sustain. And you have to realize that these individuals, you nor the person that you're pursuing or have pursued, is a superhuman. While they have super strength and they have things that you definitely were attracted to upon approaching and wedding, or dating and things of that nature, these individuals are not perfect. And I believe sometimes we expect these individuals to be perfect, and sometimes we may give off that impression. So we definitely want to ensure that we are allowing room for flaws, right? Accepting each other flaws, right? In a natural sense, looking at what that look, their insecurities. You talked about vulnerabilities earlier, Jill. And that individual should feel comfortable sharing with you their flaws. They should be authentic in sharing that. In you, on the other hand, or the other person is the problem that needs to do this, there should be a mutual level of compassion that's within the relationship to accept those flaws. uh as a woman, you may appreciate, his humanity and things of that nature. You may appreciate some different aspects and characteristics about your spouse, and there may be some things that you do not appreciate about your spouse. And so is as it is, and from a male's perspective, you may, love the way she does her hair, but you may not like her hair in a certain aspect, or she may have an issue with baldness or alopecia, just different things that people have sometimes that I know it's extreme, but just different things that people have that they cannot help. different physical qualities, if you would, that they may not be able to help. And that may be a flaw. How they do certain things like wash the dishes may be a flaw. Them not taking out the trash on a certain day, maybe, certain things may be a flaw, and it may be an issue with their overall personality, and it may be an issue with their overall characteristic. And you have to be able to judge that to see, what things are worth addressing and what things are worth adjusting to. So what things are worth addressing and what things are worth adjusting to. So when you learn how to accept one another's flaws, this does help you to have a deeper bond. It helps you to grow in that relationship. It helps you to realize that you yourself are not perfect, and then you can accept each other's shortcomings without judging the other person. Okay. So when we look at that, I do want to say something from a biblical perspective, Jill. When we look at accepting one another flaws, and this is Galatians 3:13, which encourages us as believers to bear one another in forgiving grievances. Bear one another in forgiving grievances. So, when we look at the word of God, it often talks about forgiveness, and it doesn't talk about word shortcoming per se, but it does talk about forgiveness and extending grace and understanding that we are human and we are only able to do what we do through the strength of God's grace. So even understanding that, as a partner or a partner that's desiring a romantic relationship that leads to marriage, we have to remember that we all are imperfect. We all are sinners saved by the grace of God, and allow room for error. So that's what I would say as far as accepting the imperfections and understanding that you and your spouse or your spouse to be are both human beings.
Wow, that's good. That's good. And two, the more you get to know somebody, just to add on what what you're saying, you become familiar. So you want to kind of keep a level of familiarity, but also like a level of mystery. So that's something like you have to kind of work that dynamic, because when those times when you do become familiar with each other, it can breed a level of content and lack of appreciation. And the temptation is to think, oh, now that I know this person, I'm so comfortable with this person, the person's so comfortable with me. You can easily think that you can find somebody else, or having this temptation to want to kind of veer off the path. And a lot of times that's not what you need, or perhaps not the solution to the problem. It may just be, hey, well, maybe there needs to be an element of mystery. Maybe there needs to be some grace. And everybody looks good from afar. When you see somebody once a week or whatever, everybody looks good on social media. And it's amazing the type of things that we can create for social media. So you don't want to, sometimes I feel that we can compare our partner to fake things and have a certain level of feeling about them, and feeling like they're not, like saying, not being perfect. And we're trying to compare them to something that's not even real. And Facebook, let me tell you, it's not real, because it's just a highlight. You're seeing 5 seconds, 2 minutes, people clean out the counter. They do all these cartwheels, backflips, and some things are quote unquote real, but it's still just for a minute. It's just for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. It's not how somebody is oftentimes 24 hours of the day. Yeah. And I know for me, even like in this moment, one of the things that we practice, and we've been practicing for years, when we come on live, we amplify at least 30 to 50%. Probably on a podcast, it's kind of a little less. But when we used to go live, it was like we amplified our voice, our character, our personality 150%. So I don't even talk this loud, you know what I mean, when I'm in the same room with somebody. So right. There is an element of this creation that's happening on the outside that we have to realize, be able to distinguish. All I'm trying to say is make sure we're distinguishing right. Reality.
Real from fake.
Okay. That's all I'm saying out in these streets. So
you said something. No. Before you go on, I wanted to say something about, you look at somebody from afar. What happens a lot of times, though, is people become familiar with their partner. I'm going to say partner, and listen, partner for us is a man and a woman. So just let's be clear. When we're talking about heterosexual relationships between a man and a woman that's leading to marriage. So when someone gets familiar with their partner or become content with their partner, they begin to take that person for granted. So I'm glad you said that keep some mystery in the midst of the marital relationship. Every now and again, ladies, go out and, buy a new wig or something, get a different type of outfit, dress a little different, change up the game a little bit. Like I have locks, but Jill will tell you, I have locks one day. I'll have on a blonde wig one day. I'll have on a blonde and black wig the next day. Keep it tight, keep it hot. And guys, you too. So not just girls, you too. Making sure you're in shape, making sure, you're dressing to par. At times, I'm not saying you always have to do that, but every now and again, just, leave the mystery, leave it a mystery that you want to surprise your spouse, your partner, and you want to make sure that you're not taking them for granted, and not just in the dressing aspect of it, but just in other things that you do. Think of different surprises. If you don't normally take her flowers, take her some flowers. If you normally don't, take him lunch, or call and check on him during his lunch break, or during a meeting, call and check up on him, or send I don't know if they do telegrams or anything like that anymore, but people do like little fun things, just different things, just switch it up, change it up, send them a fun emoji or something of that nature. You just want to keep it hot, because a lot of these women out here, I'm talking to the men and the women now, because a lot of these women that are not married, they're thirsty. A lot of them that are looking for husbands or just looking for a fling, they don't care where they're looking at, and they're looking at individuals that are married, and men as well, right? They're looking at married people because it's the element of surprise to have an affair. It's the element of surprise to be able to see that person during the day for a couple hours, and they go home to their husband or their wife. So we definitely want to protect and safeguard our marriages. Maybe we'll talk about that one day too, Jill. I did want to say, one time my husband and I were going out, and every time we go on a date, like, I dress up, and he normally does too, but just one night he was like, he just put on something. I'm like, no, you need to put some clothes on, because when you go out, your friends or whatever the case may
Come
be, you
on,
put clothes
okay.
on.
Right to the
So you need to
dime.
put clothes on. And from that point, I had no problems. Like, no, you put clothes on, because we're going out. You don't just get comfortable. And ladies, you have to say stuff like that. I mean, yeah, that might not be the case for you, but whatever you see, when you see your person getting comfortable and complacent, say something. One night my husband was going to a game or something once with his boys, and he just took like an hour or two to get dressed. I'm like, wait a minute. I say, next time when we go out, you need to take 2 hours to get ready. Like, I call it
Listen,
out. Like,
you're
no,
gonna be the same way all the time. Be consistent
be
with
the
it. Come
same
on.
way. Because when we go out, I'm doing makeup, I'm doing hair, I'm doing this, I'm doing that every single time. I never step out of my house with my husband, especially when we're going out, just regular, right? We run
Right,
an
right.
errand, that's
Ordinary.
different. But if we're going on a date or something, you better believe it. Like, I'm dressed to the nines, and not just for him, but for me too, because I like how it looks, I like how it feels, right? And I want him to be attracted to me, from all aspects, from my body, from my hair, from my dress, everything. So it's so important for me, and me and my husband both share the same sentiments. And I encourage you all, as spouses and spouses to be as well. You don't just do what you do for you. Even when it comes to your body makeup, not makeup per se, but you know what I mean, like health and fitness, as it pertains to your body image and things of that nature. Like, you have somebody else that you're sharing a life with, and those things should matter. I know I have some women saying, well, I'm not doing that for no man, and some man say, I'm not doing that for no woman. Well, if that's your attitude, I'm not talking to you, because it's not necessarily doing it for that person, but it is showing appreciation. It is, that person has decided to spend the rest of their life with you. Why not give them your best in all aspects, not just paying a bill? Anybody can pay a bill, right? But well, give them your best in all aspects. That's my personal opinion on that.
No, I
And I
love it.
believe I can have some scientific data to back that up as far as how marriages last.
Absolutely, because what you do is it's effort.
Yeah,
And what I know to be true is and it's not just marriages. I don't want to seem like we're only speaking to marriages. This is the wife
right.
coach to my whatever side she's on, right? But for me, it's just not marriages, because people are in relationships. You have to establish a healthy relationship before you even could get married.
Right.
So, but with that, it shows a level of effort. And what I know, when relationships fail, whether it's a relationship or a long-term relationship, whatever, or even a marriage, it fails a lot of times because of the failure of effort. And that failure of effort could be a failure to communicate, a failure to show up, a failure to say, hey, I appreciate you. I want to show you that, what I mean, you matter to me. I don't want to be looking bust down, busted and disgusted. I want to give you my best. Like, why would we not? Like, why you want to go out and look good for every other Tom, how do you say, every other Tom, Dick, and
Tom,
Harry,
Dick, and Harry.
likewise,
Yeah.
Julius, whoever, Felicia, and all the people, and you're not going to show up like your best for your partner. Like,
Right.
you need to start thinking about it in that context. It only makes sense. So I totally agree. And I think it's important. And it shows, like you said, level of appreciation, level of respect, a level of saying, hey, I'm going to put forth the effort and energy so you can appreciate me and we can, you know what I mean? Do all things. And lastly, I'll say before we move to the last thing is what you were talking about earlier about the element of surprise and stuff. Another way to say that is like a pattern interrupt. So think about it like that. What is something that you can do to interrupt the patterns of every day? Maybe it's leaving a note.
Predictability. Yeah.
You know,
That
exactly.
predictability.
Just kind of be out of, just do something out of the normal element. Okay. Lastly,
No, hold on. Because I got to say two things. So when we went on our staycation here in DC, I saw this older couple. I mean, it had to be like 70-some years old. And this lady was bad. And that just goes to show you. I mean, she was dressed to the nines. Her hair is to the nines. Her makeup. I'm like, that's a bad, elder lady. And her husband was just there. You can tell how he was so, I want to say proud, because I know that word can seem negative in a sense, but you can tell his appreciation and love for her just by her showing effort and showing up in that way. And I like how you said about breaking the pattern. I had something else about that, but I forgot about what I was going to say. But I like how you said it just interrupt the pattern. Predictability. That's what I want to say. Stop being predictable. Stop, and I was going to say this. I'm sorry, y'all. So listen, this is what I will say. A lot of times what happens, Joe, though, you know why things get stale too and familiar, and we may have to talk about this deeper, is that people give 100% when they first get in and they do all the things. So there is nothing left.
come
You
on.
cooking for him, but when you date, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're doing all the things, you're over functioning. You are over functioning out the gate. So now you 5 years in, you done did everything. You have nothing. You left nothing, in the vault to go back and get. So if that's you, I'm not saying that you're out of luck, but you may have to learn new things and different things, create new experiences so you can interrupt that pattern. That's what I want to say about that.
And you can run it back. You might, if that play was a good play, run it back. Run that play back. You know what I'm saying? Don't you ain't got to be a one-hit wonder.
Right.
You do not have to be a one-hit wonder. I was going to say something too, but it slipped my mind when you were saying that. So, okay. So you were saying, even if you, yes, same energy. I used to have this conversation. Okay. And leave it up to me. I'm the person that created that mantra. Keep that same energy. I remember telling my partner, like, hey, this was like years ago. I had like 7, 8 years. I can't remember, but we came up with that. I was like, yeah, that same energy you have when you're out here talking to everybody and you be all jovial and high energy and you know what I'm saying, extrovert, and I'm gonna need you to maintain that same energy. Don't be coming to me. You got to energize a battery for days going 1,000 miles per hour. You come home, you on 2. No, sir. No.
You back what's it?
Come on, 10, 100, something. I need you to do something. We ain't doing that. So you do get to maintain, even if you started out high functioning, you need to maintain that same energy right there. Because otherwise, like, you sell somebody a wolf ticket and nobody want a wolf ticket. Like they got what you based on the promises of how you was showing up then. Don't be switching baiting. Nobody got time. Listen, we got to go.
That's the seat. That's the
Come
seat.
on.
Go ahead.
And
Deceitful.
Okay.
You're deceitful self.
Okay. You're lying about who you is. You're a fraud. You're a fake. What they call that? A counterfeit.
You're counterfeit. You know, a lot to be bad.
Line up.
Got me caught up in this situation. I'm just saying. Okay. All right, number 5. What we talking about? Unconditional love.
Her love is not based on performance and
conditions.
Conditions. Okay, I'm like, hold on, that's conduct.
I know. Listen, that might be a good one though. Yeah. Conditions.
So you're talking about everything from flexibility, being adjustable, reasonable expectations. So sometimes we can get into performance-based love, and I get it. Some people have this whole act of service as one of their love languages, and it is one of mine. However common, even if that's the case, You don't want to feel like you have to do things. Really, at the heart of the matter, like I opened up and saying, you got to have that respect block has to be intact or maintain intact. You have to have admiration, meaning there's something you appreciate about this, the way this person is, how they live, how they move, how they think. It has to be something. Okay, it can't just be about how good they are and how sexy they are and how much money they make and how beautiful she is and how big, we got to go deeper. So it has to be some level of appreciation of who that person is, be in the world. And then, like I said, this whole vulnerability. So you don't want to get into, I have to do this. And, you kind of talked about the cooking and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that every now and again, but you want it to be reciprocal in a way, even if they can't do that for you. Hopefully they're doing something, but you don't want to get into this whole thing that you have to do. You have to go to the cleaners. You have to do the laundry. You have to, have even be physical or whatever the case in order to gain or maintain
love
the attention of somebody, because the truth of the matter, this is the truth of the matter. Some people ain't gonna like this. And I know this for sure, but a lot of times, especially for those who are not married, a lot of times when you add the physical into the equation, a lot of times people think it's going to make it more amazing and all the things, but sometimes that actually can deflate it, because you kind of have now took away that one thing that you have to look forward to, and you don't have to look forward to it. I mean, you guess you can look forward to it for the next time. But what I've seen, experienced, and what many other relationship experts articulate is that actually becomes a pinnacle of a thing that is more likely when it happens, it climaxes the relationship. That's not yourself. You climax in the relationship, and you're more likely to lose interest in one another versus gain. So definitely don't do that with the hopes to secure your relationship or situation. You will play another situation right there. But I'm not saying, I mean, some people can end up and maintain a relationship with that, however the case. But I'm just saying, we don't want to be doing that. That's not your necessarily role or duty.
But a lot of times, dude, that's true, Joe. However, a lot of times individuals are operating in this way because that's what they were taught. And we have to realize that both our family unit, our family of origin, as well as culture, has a lot to do with how people behave and how they execute in a marital relationship, right? So if that's what they saw or that's what they were taught indirectly within their home environment, parents, grandparents, and things of that nature, they tend to do that. I can say that's true for me, because even growing up with mom didn't cook a lot. Mom worked a lot, but mom was not a heavy cook. Who cooked in our household? Our father. Our father probably cooked 95% of the time, and that's no joke. Like my dad was always rolling the pots, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I mean, we ate good growing up. Going to Burger King or McDonald's, that was like a field trip, right, Joe? We didn't get to go to those places. Very rare. So I thank God for that he did, want us to have a home cooked meal like all the time. So even in me, getting married, I just so happen to marry a man that does cook as well. I mean, I cook as well too, but my husband can cook really well. And I think subconsciously, I probably desired that without even knowing that was a unknown expectation until it was happening, right? So a lot of these performance, and not that my husband performing, that I just use that as an example, but a lot of these things people do, the wife, a lot of women think, oh, I gotta cook, I gotta clean, I gotta make sure I'm taking care of the kids. But we grew up very different. My father was very domesticated. My father is the one, he didn't clean, but he cooked. He took us to practices. He took us to school. He had us the majority of the time because my mom was a nurse and she was working a lot, and his schedule was a lot more flexible because of the type of work that he did. So we grew up on a different, seeing things differently than most people saw them. So with that said, you have to really look at your environment, how you grew up, what you were taught and things of that nature. And you may can implement some of those things, but it may not work for your household. So I would say don't automatically incorporate that. A lot of people just automatically, rules, we got to define rules, and you're to take out the trash, you're to do this, you're to do that. So what if he's not there? Because typically we say the man is to take out the trash. And I do believe in some things that men should do, because personally, I'm not doing yard work and stuff like that. That's just me. But I know some women that do it. They don't mind. But I personally don't want to do those things. So you have to see what works for your household, what you and your partner is going to agree to do and make it fit for you too. So when we're talking about the performance based, we want to make sure that we're operating in unconditional love. And something I saw, Jill, about performance. So it says love that is not contingent on performance recognizes that relationships are built on a deeper emotional and psychological connection rather than on superficial criteria. So when your relationship is not built on being performing all the time, you have an opportunity to connect at a deeper level, right? Deeper emotionally, deeper psychologically, and things of that nature. So, and also a woman can build emotional resilience when she's not acting superficial, and a man as well. So a woman who loves a man without condition demonstrates emotional resilience. She understands that life is filled with ups and downs, and true love persists despite challenges. So we're not being, blown by every challenge or every adversity that comes our way. There's an emotional resilience that not only the woman is able to experience, but I believe also the man is able to experience. You have some emotional regulation there because you do understand that in the relationship, you're going to have adversity, you're going to have trouble, you're going to have problems. Think about it this way: when you were single and are single, some of you, you're having problems and issues now. So why people think when they get into these relationships that they're not going to have issues and problems? The benefit to me, I believe, when you're with someone, especially a level-headed person that's, like-minded and, things of that nature, you can work through these things together versus you having to figure out every challenge and problem by yourself. So when we say, don't love based on performance, we want to make sure that you all understand that there has to be an unconditional love that's there. And when we look at it from a biblical perspective, the Bible talks about the agape love, loving without conditions, love without limits, loving selflessly, loving beyond, their ability to even love you at times, giving freely, giving love freely, regardless of human actions. Now, I'm not talking about you just accept anything, allow people to mistreat you. That's not what we're talking about here. But we are saying that you love, you don't base your love on what the person can or cannot do for you.
I just have a few things to add to that. So what you're saying, sis, is really like having a level of stick-to-itiveness and not running or giving up at the first sign of the issue. And sometimes people do that because they have never or have very limited skills as it pertains to conflict resolution. And what happens, and what I know, let me give you like 1 minute, sis. What I know is when you do that, when you have the temptation, and I was there one time, had the temptation to want to pull a carpet at every little thing, or your first thing is in a relationship or whatever the case may be. That's a toxic behavior pattern in itself, or unhealthy. And why we say that is because is the level of immaturity is showing that you're not equipped to have, like I said, those healthy communication skills, the healthy conflict resolution skills, to be able to have a disagreement or challenge somebody and having a difference of opinion. Because we shouldn't be going head to head, toe to toe, neck to neck. That's a whole other conversation that we will have to have another time, right? That definitely should not be happening between a man and a woman. But what can happen is you can see something a different way than they see that, and you guys just aren't able to get on the same page about it because maybe it's a strong belief. It could be a different belief system, right? But it's with respect. It's, with still respecting that person's opinion and everything. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Stop being disagreeable. In line with that, stop being disagreeable. We kind of touched on that a little bit. A lot of things that are happening in the relationship is because you're disagree. I don't know. We talked about that in person or on here.
I think we talked about that in person. We were talking about like how do men and women end up in these arguments anyway, because we were saying that, okay, if the woman is becoming like, you're almost like having two heads. So the man is trying to lead and set the tone and the pace. And a lot of times when we see the bickering and breakdown too in a relationship is when the woman wants to assert her, I'm not even going to say right, her authority, her opinion. and she wants to say, no, I don't want to go right. I want to go left. And it may not be like that. But at the end of the day, you're not aligning. You're not submitting to his will. That's when he says submit to one another, is submitting to the will of that person. That's what it is. And we don't,
the head of every,
and if you're not submitting to one another, and particularly talking to the women, because I think we struggle even more than men in this area, believe it or not, is that we want to do our own thing and thinking, oh, nobody gonna tell me what to do, nobody gonna control me. A lot of times that may be revealing the lack of a father role and your father caring and protecting and showing you how a man is to cover and to lead you. And so you're
Right.
rebelling against the authority and the leader in your home or whoever you're dating, however the case may be. You're out of order and you got to get in order because that's going to create chaos and dysfunction. And if you disrespect that man, he's not going to respect you. He's going to resent you. And so we got to learn how to show that adoration, that honor, and that respect. That's the first pillar in a relationship. If we can't respect each other, game's over. I mean, I'm not saying in the game, but we gotta
it's gonna be rough.
It's gonna be rough. You have to tighten that up. There's not gonna be love. There's not going to be this intimate, deep connection if you have that level of adversity and that level of, you know what I'm saying, friction.
Combatedness and just, that we got to talk about that for real though. We might have to take a break and talk about that, dig deeper in respect, and then come back and talk about when a man loves a woman, because that's a real thing. And I know a lot of women may be on here. We have my strong Black woman, my strong woman in general, you know, my alphas and all that. They're saying, well, I deserve respect too, and now I'm not submitting to no man. But it is scientific, you know, that when you're unable to submit to his authority or his leadership, if you would, that there are some issues there. There are some things that you may have experienced with authority figures in your life, starting from your father. And I would also say with others that you may have been in a relationship with the ex-husband or boyfriend or someone, and you did not find any one of those individuals worthy to submit to their leadership for whatever reason. I will say this: if you are a believer, meaning a follower of Christ, you know, the head of every woman is her husband, and the head of every man is Christ. So I can see if he is not submitting to the authority of Christ, or if he's not submitting to any authority, I can see how that can be very challenging for you to submit, especially if you've seen him abuse his leadership and his authority. We're not talking about those people, and we're not telling you to submit to anybody that's going to use their authority or leadership, you know, over you, or lord their leadership over you, right? But we do want to help you all to get to a place where you are in a relationship with a healthy individual, and you are able to submit to their leadership over you and your children. So yeah,
that's good. That's it. That's all.
That's all we got.
So we say we want to have a part 3, and it sounds like we want to go deeper on the conversation of respect, because it's so important. And like I say, you're to die and or thrive on the back of RESPECT. So until next time, you guys, we didn't even say it. Share this broadcast with somebody that you know who's looking to enhance their relationships. Share it on your social media channels. We would love you to just share it with 2 or 3 people that you know, and make a comment to let us know what you think, and leave us a review. Oh my God, if you made it to this far in the podcast,
45 episodes, yeah.
If you haven't, even if you just listened to the end of this episode, we ask that you take a moment to write a review. You can do it on Spotify for sure. We're getting it up on iTunes, and so it will be up there too. So you have to go to like the reviews and actually type. And I might try to provide more detailed instructions, because I know in the past sometimes I struggle with leaving reviews because I didn't know how. So just try to look for the review button, type the review. Hopefully you get us a 5-star, and let us know what you think. Until next time, peace and blessings. Have a great evening.
Peace and blessings. Have a good night. Bye.